Welcome to the Young Turks. We got a great hour ahead for you guys. I'm Jake Huger, JR's producing, Jesus is directing. Now I want to get to something that has been bugging me all day long and actually all week long. I think this is a very, very important issue. It goes back to the issue of the press. And what the Obama White House did was they picked a fight with Fox News Channel. And that's only because Fox News has picked every single fight with them. So they decided to punch back a little bit, and they sent Anita Dunn out there, and she's the main person arguing for a more forceful position with Fox News Channel. And, we have her comments. It's clip number 4. I just want to remind you of what they were and how this all got started, and then we'll tell you what's happened since her comments. So here's Anita Dunn from the White House.
I mean, the reality of it is that Fox News often operates almost as either the research arm or the communications arm of the Republican Party. Let's be realistic here, Howie. They're widely viewed as, a part of the Republican Party. Take their talking points, put them on the air. Take their opposition research, put them on the air, and that's fine. But let's not pretend they're a news network the way CNN is.
Now, I only agree with that 1,000,000%. Apparently, I'm one of the few, because many people in the press are aghast at the White House, including a lot of the top progressive people in the country and journals, etc. MSNBC and CNN instantly jumped to Fox News' defense. Not just that Howard Kurtz interview where he challenged Anita Dunn over and over again. That's fine. As a journalist, he should challenge whoever's on his hair, right? But then, no, there was commentary, and it's too long to play here. 5-minute clip on CNN bashing the White House. How dare they pick on poor little Fox News? MSNBC, same exact thing. And then now papers all over the country. Megan Garber from Columbia Journalism Review. Hal Bodecker from Orlando Sentinel. Doug Hay from U.S. News and World Report. Chris Rosar from New York Magazine. Chuck Rosh from USA Today. And John Nichols from The Nation. One of the oldest progressive magazines in the country, of course, all saying, oh, this is terrible, Obama's become the whiner-in-chief, and I can't believe they're whining about this, and poor old Fox, yes, they might be a little conservative, but they're challenging the president as they should. All right, now let's clarify the record. All right, number one, as a matter of tactics, it makes perfect sense. Number one, you change the conversation from all the things that Fox is accusing you of, whatever nonsense that they got going on today, whether it's the birthers or the death panels or Acorn or that you're a Marxist or whatever mud they're slinging your way, you change the conversation to, hey, is Fox News a conservative shill? And are they just an outlet of Republican propaganda? See, that's a conversation you can't lose because we're having a debate on how bad Fox News is. And then you'll have people who are mysteriously defending their opponents. MSNBC and CNN are supposed to be competing in the ratings, for example. And when Fox News wins in the ratings, they take out full-page ads rubbing against CNN and MSNBC's face in some of the most vicious ways. But when Fox News is attacked, MSNBC and CNN jump to their defense. Oh, no, Fox News is great. Why are you going after them? Because they're trying to change the conversation to, hey, you got to understand these guys are not covering the news straight. They have an agenda, and that is why they're ramming this stuff down our throat. The White House is exactly right to do that. Number two, as far as if you don't challenge them, like if you listen to the rest of this, honestly, these guys who are incredibly foolish in the press, saying that, no, you shouldn't hit back to Fox News, well, then you're going to get swift-boated on every issue. What happened to John Kerry in 2004 is going to happen to you on every single issue. You're going to sit there and say, oh, no, I can't attack Fox News because the rest of the press told me that I'd be whining if I did. So go ahead, make up any kind of nonsense you want, and have at it, Hoss. You think that's a smart strategy for the White House? Come on, now, you can't think that. All right, now, point number 3. Most importantly, they're right. Of course they're right. Anyone that isn't a complete and utter either idiot or completely biased, you can't see that Fox News biases their news Not just their opinion shows, but their news shows in favor of conservative propaganda? Are you kidding me? Look, Daily Show did a great piece on this just earlier this week. They do that stupid teabag protest on 9/12. Fox News is all over it. They got reporters at the scene. They got 8 different reporters at the scene. They're not just at the event. They were encouraging the event through their news shows. So, oh, you better get out there. This thing's going to be huge. It's going to be huge. Here's how you can get out there. Here's how you can take it part. A couple of weeks later, almost exactly a month later, there's a gay rights parade. Almost the same exact number of people that showed up, about 75,000 for each parade. Fox News spent less than 4 minutes on it. They didn't send a single cameraman or a single reporter. I didn't see any of their news shows encouraging that march. I didn't see any of them going out there saying, oh boy, you better show up, and why isn't the rest of the press covering this? And since Fox News didn't cover it, the rest of the schmucks on TV are like, oh, Fox News didn't send a camera guy. So MSNBC sent one reporter, CNN sent none. Same number of protesters. Why aren't you covering it? I don't know. The Fox News. Is Fox News biased? Do I have to have this conversation? Are you serious? All right, look. And then, by the way, why does it matter? Why does it matter? Let's not forget that, right? On the day of the election in the year 2000, all the networks were unsure who won Florida. It was, for all intents and purposes, a statistical tie. One network came out late at night and said, no, it's over. We're calling it. And they called it for George W. Bush. Do you know who that network was? That news network? Fox. Do you know the guy who made that decision? And a lot of you might not know this. This is absolutely true. It seems so stunning that you can't quite believe it. Look it up. Google it. The guy who made that decision at Fox News was George Bush's cousin. Yes, George W. Bush's cousin. And then the rest of the absolute morons, that the television news actors, oh my God, Fox News called it. Oh, we're behind. We're late. Fox News is on it. Okay, we call it too. Yes. All right, Bush wins. And then they later turn around and they're like, oh, really? Oh, it's a statistical tie? Oh, and then if you had counted the votes, it turns out Al Gore would have won. Well, you look at that. You think that might be relevant, that they decided an election in favor of a Republican who didn't win? You think, no, but they have no agenda. No agenda. They just hired Bush's cousin to call the election. All right. Now, if you're still painfully stupid enough not to believe that their news side has an agenda, we've got something awesome for you. But before we do that, I want to explain something. Because they throw out, opinion hosts and news, and they try to confuse you. In my mind, there are 3 different categories. There are the opinion hosts like Bill O'Reilly, Keith Olbermann, the Young Turks. We do opinion, right? Then there is ideologically driven news, or what you could call the partisan press, right? That's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm not saying Fox News shouldn't exist. Obviously, it's a free country. You can do any kind of show you want, any kind of network you want, right? But you just have to be clear. And they are ideologically driven, obviously. Now, on the other hand, they'll say, MSNBC is ideologically driven. Nonsense. Morning Joe is a Republican 3 solid hours. He's a former Republican congressman. He claims he's the most conservative guy in America. 3 solid hours in the morning. And when they do their news, they don't say, how can we help Obama? They don't have news meetings where Dan Moody, the vice president of Fox News, sent that famous memo saying, hey, if the Democrats win, try to catch terrorists celebrating. We'll put it on air and pretend they're on the side of the Democrats. MSNBC and CNN do not have meetings like that, okay? Because they are the 3rd category, straight news. Not everybody on MSNBC, they have opinion shows like Oberman and Maddow and Ed Schultz, et cetera, et cetera. But their news division is straight news. Now, if you say, hey, no, wait a minute, Cenk, still not sold. I mean, after the comparison of the parades, after I've seen a million things that Fox does, after they drove this whole Acorn and Bill Ayers and Reverend Wright and all that nonsense, and even after they called a whole election for Bush by hiring his cousin to do so, still not convinced. All right. Let's see if this will do it for you. The first clip we're going to play for you, clip number 5, is organized by the Republican Party. It is the talking points that they want to put out. It's an official part of it's from GOP.com, Okay, so let's watch that first. Here you go.
Where are the jobs?
Where are the jobs?
Mr. President, where are the jobs? Listen with me and see if we can hear the sound of jobs. Shh. Gotta listen real close. Quiet. Well, I'm not hearing anything. The administration told us in this House months ago that if the American people stood in favor of the stimulus package, that unemployment would peak at 8%. And yet here in Illinois, the state that I represent, we've now eclipsed 10%.
And most of my constituents are asking, where are the jobs?
Well, the economy hasn't gained 3 million jobs. It's actually lost 3 million jobs. Where are the jobs? And unemployment is almost 10%, and in my home state of Michigan, it is 15.2% today.
Before we move on to the next big government scheme of this administration, the American people are asking, Mr. President, where are the jobs?
The Speaker said it's about jobs. But the national unemployment's 9.5%, and in the Midwest it's in double digits.
Where are the jobs?
Where are the jobs with this stimulus? They want to know why the only apparent answer here in Washington is more spending and more borrowing. My constituents want their voices heard.
The American people know if Americans are not working, America is not working.
All the $1 trillion stimulus bill did was spend taxpayer money to create more government regulations, more government control, and more government bureaucrats. That's too bad, and that's just the way it is.
The number one priority of this Congress and this administration should be job creation.
My constituents, along with those across Ohio and our nation, are asking, where are those jobs?
Now, you've never seen a more clear Republican talking point in your life, right? Those were all elected Republican officials, obviously all on the same page, and the theme that they want to pound in is, where are the jobs? Now, let's go to the Fox News anchors and see if they've picked up on this theme. Clip number 6.
At this point, with so much money spent and so many people out of work, a lot of Americans have the same question for the White House day after day. Where are the jobs?
So, where are the jobs? America's economy on the road to recovery, but with a big problem. Where are the jobs?
If it is working, where are the jobs? Where are the jobs? Which begs the question, where are the jobs?
That's a growing economy, not great from the lows, but it's growing. So where are the jobs?
All right, where are the jobs?
Well, you know, it really is going to be, where are the jobs? That's the big question.
The unemployment numbers out. Makes you wonder the question we've been asking all week. Where are the jobs in America today? I think there are 4 questions on this whole segment. Where are the jobs? Who's talking about them? Just where are the jobs? Simply. We'll continue to ask the question, where are the jobs?
Gee, did they pick up on that Republican talking point and repeat it and repeat it and repeat it through their news anchors? Well, we report, you decide. Is there anyone in the country left unconvinced? Really? Really? That they're not just an outlet of the Republican propaganda and clearly conservative, and nothing wrong with being conservative as long as they plant that flag and say, hey, you know what, we're an ideologically driven channel, and our job, we view it as progressing the conservative ideology. So if our news is tilted that way, of course, because we're ideologues. Then I say, hey, have at it, Hoss. That's perfectly acceptable. But to pretend, and for the rest of the press and the news, to pretend that they are not ideologically driven, that they're nonpartisan and give you straight news, is greatly harmful to this country and to the truth. It can't possibly be any clearer. All right, now, what is the result of all of this? Now, I showed you the result in 2000 was enormous, right? What's the result today? Well, turns out there's a story out now because of a poll done by Gallup about how Obama has now, quote, become more polarizing than Hillary Clinton. Okay, let it sink in, okay? So it's not that they have attacked him so much, it's that Obama is polarizing. When he came in, he had a 78% approval rating. Unreal. Sky high, right? Even among Republicans, he had a 60% approval rating when he came in. That's been knocked down to 19%. Now, why? Gee, I wonder how. How did that happen? Could it have been the non-stop attacks from Fox News and the conservative radio hosts and the rest of the press that aids and abets them by pretending they're doing real news? And then in the end, it's not because, and the story gets reported in the Associated Press, not as, hey, they tore down his numbers by attacking him nonstop, but Obama has become more polarizing, like it's his fault, than Hillary Clinton. Gee, I wonder how Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton got so polarizing. It couldn't be that that they got attacked in the same exact way by Fox News Channel and those same conservative hosts. By the way, look, if Obama was an ideologue on the left and he was pursuing policies that were, you know, clearly liberal, clearly progressive, clearly way left-wing, then you say, well, all right, then maybe both are at fault because Fox News is clearly viciously attacking him with things that aren't even true a majority of the time, right? But hey, he's also had it coming, right? Instead, Obama, as we've seen 100 times, out of his way, bipartisan, please, 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 let's be bipartisan. I'm begging you to be bipartisan. How can I get Olympia Snow's vote? How can I get Chuck Grassley's vote or Mike Enzie's vote? What do I have to do? What do I have to give away? What concession do I have to do? What compromise do I have to do? Oh, banking laws? Screw the banking laws. No. Public option, yeah, I like it, but it's not essential. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. What else do I need to give away? I mean, you just saw today, Bobby Jindal gets booed during his speech. Obama's giving a speech, and the crowd boos when he mentions Bobby Jindal, and he says, no, Bobby Jindal's a good guy. He's working hard, and he's doing a good job for Louisiana. That's the guy who's polarizing? Now, look, this is what drives me crazy. It's because this is not an accurate reflection of what's actually happening in this country. And if all of the press goes along with the same message, the same wrong message, how are we not surprised when we come out with an electorate that is grossly misinformed? And the organization that is at the center of that misinformation is Fox News Channel. If the White House does not attack them, they would be incredibly foolish. Of course they have to attack them on all fronts. And the fact that the rest of the press goes along with Fox News is disgusting. Young Turks. Now, I'm not done with Fox yet. Let me hit him a couple more times. Now, on somewhat similar issues, you'll see. First, a curious one. Larry Klayman is a rabid conservative. He's the guy who is the head of the Judicial Watch. He's the one that went after Bill Clinton on the Whitewater so-called crisis, Monica Lewinsky, et cetera, et cetera. In fact, he brags about how he was there the night that they formed the vast right-wing conspiracy. It was apparently in Charleston, South Carolina in 1988 in a meeting with him, Paul Weyrich, Phyllis Schlafly, and NRA's Wayne LaPierre. So this guy is as conservative and honestly as crazy as it gets. So take his opinion with a grain of salt. But he's now not only mad at the Democrats, but also seething mad at the Republicans and Fox News Channel. He's written a book called Whores, Why and How I Came to Fight the Establishment. So it's not like he's being unclear with his opinion, right? And, he thinks Obama's headed towards Marx, Lenin, Stalin, and Mao, but that Bush and Cheney led the way to there. And he's mad at the Republicans for not recognizing the grab of power that Bush and Cheney did, executive power, and that he was enraged when they outed Valerie Plame and couldn't believe the Republican hypocrisy when no one called him out on that. So you give him a little bit of credit for that. And then, ironically, he knocks the Republicans for being busy going after Clinton on Monica Lewinsky, while they should have all been busy and helping the president go after al-Qaeda. Now, that's greatly ironic because he was one of the guys going after the president on that issue. So, like I said, take it with a grain of salt. But here's the reason I bring it to you. Because he's decided that Fox News is also propaganda. Okay? And it's a fascinating thing, right? And, you can discount his opinions, but he has an anecdote here from Roger Ailes. I don't know if it's true. If it's true, it's incredibly damaging to Fox News and perfectly exemplary of exactly what we've been talking about. So at first he says Fox News should change their slogan from "We report, you decide" to "We brainwash, you decide." Okay, so again, I think he's right there. Give him credit on that one. And he says Roger Ailes says, quote, "strange and petty tactics," but that could just be their internal food fight, right? But he relays a conversation that he had with Ailes after Ailes decided to hire Chris Cuomo from Good Morning America to Fox News. Now, if this is true, like I said, it's very damaging. According to Clayman, Ailes said, "If I'm going to put on some goddamn liberal, I might as well get the dumbest F I can find." Now, if I'm Chris Cuomo, I'm really hoping that isn't true. Okay, and I feel bad that he's connected to this. And I don't have any opinion on Chris Cuomo. I don't know the guy, and I haven't seen his work. Okay, but putting that aside, I mean, isn't that exactly the Fox strategy? If we're going to put on any goddamn liberals, they're going to be the dumbest people they can find. Yeah, no, but Fox probably just does straight news for their news programming. Yeah, probably. They're fair and balanced. I can't believe the rest of the press believes that. It's painful to me how stupid they are. All right. Now, we're a little bit of funny back and forth here. We're going to go to clip number 3. Bill O'Reilly and Brit Hume talking about how Fox is not biased. I mean, it's a comedy routine. It's like Abbott and Costello over here or something. All right, let's watch.
Brit did a comment on the Brit Brer program today, and what was the gist of that?
Well, it ended in the following way, which is if the White House really did think we were an arm of the Republican Party, they wouldn't be criticizing or attacking us. They wouldn't feel any need to. But note the choice. We're not being criticized here by the White House as conservative. After all, conservatism remains very popular in what is still a center-right country.
You're joking,
no, they
right?
criticize us as Republican. Republicans are much less popular than conservatives, or Republican ideas are seen right now as less popular than conservative ideas.
But I haven't seen any evidence of GOP intrusion into Fox News. I mean,
okay then.
Certainly, I never hear from any Republican about anything on the factor.
No,
I don't believe when you were doing special report, you heard from the Republican Party, did you?
No. I mean, look, we have a lot of conservatives on Fox News, and we don't have very many people who are down-the-line advocates for whatever the Republican Party is up to. The Republican Party takes a fair amount of fairly sharp criticism on Fox News, and has for a long time.
So what do you think is the motivation by Ms. Dunn? She's not doing this on her own. This was a subject of shore-up meetings in the White House, and I'm sure President Obama knows what's going on as well. What do you think they're trying to accomplish?
Well, they wouldn't be doing this if they didn't feel stung by some of what's coming from Fox News. And you look at what happened, for example, to that fellow Van Jones, who was excoriated, revealed really, for what he turned out to be, which was he was a guy whose views turned out to be kind of out there where the buses don't run, and he was eventually forced to step aside. Now, look, if it was just right-wing criticism and Republican Party talking points, the guy'd still be there today. So it was more than that.
You and I came up in the old school where we were taught, as a reporter, you should be skeptical of everybody. I mean, that's your job as a reporter, to be skeptical. Skeptical of Democrats, skeptical of the Republicans. Doesn't really matter. And I have to say that when President Bush was in trouble in Iraq, this network and this program, and your program as well, routinely hammered President Bush on Iraq.
Well, we were very faithful about covering all the bad news that came out of Iraq for a very long period of time. The criticisms that were made of him were reported and discussed at length on Fox News. Now, he had his defenders. The war had his defenders.
But there was no cheerleading. There was no cheerleading of President Bush on this network when his administration ran into trouble. There was no cheerleading. You know, it was skeptical coverage.
Do I have to do this? I mean, I don't need to say anything, right? I mean, that's the goddamn joke. I mean, that's the funniest thing I ever heard. That was a comedy routine. You guys didn't cheerlead George W. Bush or the Iraq War? Brit Hume says there, well, we reported the criticism. Then we immediately dismissed it and called them unpatriotic. Right? I didn't tell you that part. Oh, Brit, don't make me bring out the old tapes. Okay, come on. And then, you see, I do want to make a couple of notes here. You see what he said about Van Jones? He's like, well, they fired Van Jones, so we must have been right. You see, that proves that we're not doing conservative or Republican propaganda, because since we pressured them into firing him, well, then that proves that we're not Republicans. One, that makes no sense. And two, Obama, do you see how you feed into them by buckling into them? That only feeds the beast, right? And then I like how in the beginning, Brit Hume was kind of like, hey, you know, they don't attack us for being conservative, thereby kind of admitting they definitely are conservative. Then he claims it's a center-right country. Please, please, please. And finally, the part that I loved was when O'Reilly said, I'm from the old school.
No, you know what? This is how I believe, okay? I'm from the old school.
Old school of journalism. Bill O'Reilly's previous job was at Inside Edition. Yeah, old school journalism. Where's Britney Spears going next? We'll tell you on Inside Edition. Oh, please, Bill, please spare me, okay? So, now, here's another case, news story today, that I wonder if Fox will pick up and run with. Now, you know how they say that Acorn was involved in fraud and that government should have absolutely nothing to do with it, and they were on the warpath on that for, I don't know, how long has it been? 6 months, a year, 18 months, Acorn, 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 fraud, fraud, Acorn, right? Now, was it the organization itself that did it? No. It was, there were some attempts at fraudulent voter registration by some of the employees, which Acorn found and fired. And then there was that whole sting with the prostitutes, but that didn't have anything to do with defrauding the American government. Now, funny enough, today we have a defense contractor, MPC Products Corporation, who has pled guilty in a court of law to defrauding the United States government for years on end, to the tune of $25 million. Now, do you think Fox News is going to talk for 6 months, a year, or 18 months about MPC Products? They got to go. The U.S. government can't work with it. MPC Products, $25 million, taxpayer money. They defrauded us. They admitted it in a court of law. Wire fraud. Fined up a $2.5 million fine and a $22.5 million in civil damages. They robbed you of at least $25 million that they agreed to. Fraud, 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 fraud. Oh, no, they didn't cover this story? Oh, well, will you look at that? Oh, that's interesting. Well, you know what? I'm sure they'll be on it soon, though. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they gave it a minute. Maybe they gave it 2 minutes. If next week they mention this story at all, and anyone can find it on tape, on Fox News, what should I give you? To say I'll give you a Young Turks t-shirt is an understatement. We'll start with a Young Turks t-shirt and take it from there. They're going to do this story about a defense contractor that's actually pled guilty, said, yes, I am guilty of defrauding you of $25 million. No, they continue to talk about Acorn. But that's because they're straight news, right? Straight news. What a goddamn joke. Yeah, I'm telling you, man, the only reason I'm upset, it's a free country, they're allowed to do all that, is that the rest of the press is in this, I can't believe how stupid our press is in this country. They're so, so dumb. All right. Okay, now speaking of dumb, we go to the teabaggers. Apparently there's going to be a new survey out tomorrow. Stan Greenberg and James Carville from Democracy Corps, I believe. Yes, the Democracy Corps is their polling organization. Now, they're obviously Democrats. You see how we tell you that. James Carville, it doesn't take a genius to figure it out. So you take their polls with some grain of salt. You hope they do scientific polls anyway. If they don't, then it's a waste of time, and I would never even bring it up to you. But nonetheless, grain of salt, right? And we'll see exactly what the numbers are tomorrow, but they gave a little preview, and it turns out that they looked at people who were part of the conservative base in suburban Atlanta and in suburban Cleveland, Ohio, older, white, self-identified conservative Republicans, but they had to have voted for John McCain and their local congressman to make sure that they were part of the Republican base. Apparently, their views are off the charts. A shocking number of them believe that Obama is involved in a secret socialist agenda to undermine our government. So this is not some fringe part of the Republican Party. They've captured the Republican Party. Now, look, let's talk about it more when the final numbers come out. But they say that they are also off the charts when it comes to independent voters. They're nowhere near them, okay? And if you're nowhere near the independent voters and you keep appealing to that base, Well, you're going to be nowhere near political victories. All right, when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more politics, good news, bad news as usual, and then we got to discuss Afghanistan a little bit, some interesting developments there and in Pakistan as well. Young Turks.
Pop, country, rock.
All right, back on the Young Turks. Let's do a little bit of foreign policy before we get back to politics. We got a lot of major news coming out of Afghanistan and Pakistan. First of all, Pakistan is moving into South Waziristan to go after the Taliban forces there. That is a very important development. Apparently, at least 200,000 people have fled South Waziristan because of the coming onslaught from the Pakistani army. That is actually very, very good news. That means they're obviously clamping down on the Taliban in their country, and South Waziristan is the heart, or if you could put it this way, the belly of the beast. And they got to go there, and they've given the civilians there ample warning. You know, we'll see how they carry out that fight, but that's important. Meanwhile, Taliban and Al-Qaeda have struck in Pakistan. In Lahore today, and over the last 10 days, there's been 5 different attacks that have killed more than 150 people, including over the weekend. They sieged the army headquarters, so significant attacks by the Taliban in Pakistani cities, right? So that's a very, troublesome situation. That's a funny way of putting it, but that's an understatement. In Pakistan, a nuclear-armed country, and we've got a real significant battle going on for control in that country. Now, I don't believe that this news is discouraging. I believe it is encouraging. Now, a story I just read says, well, the Pakistani army cleared the SWAT area of Taliban, but if they did, how come there are all these attacks still? Well, no one claimed, I don't think, because I've been reading the reports, and I don't think even the Pakistani government claimed that they had cleared all of Pakistan of the Taliban. In fact, that's why they had to go. They are getting ready to do a major assault on South Waziristan. But at least the battle is engaged. The battle is joined. And can the Taliban do effective and very harmful attacks until they're all cleared out? Of course they can. And so the fact that there's been a number of attacks throughout Pakistan does not worry me that the Taliban are stronger now than they were before. It might be an indication that they're, that they feel that they're in jeopardy. And so they have really engaged the Pakistani army in a way and in a level that they had not even done before. Now, obviously that has a downside. I don't want to diminish the downside. But at the same time, they're making an effort. The Pakistani government is making an effort. And that's a really good thing, because the quicker we get Al-Qaeda and some of the top Taliban leadership in northern Pakistan, and that's where South Waziristan is, it's in northern Pakistan, the quicker we can get the hell out of Afghanistan. Which brings us to Afghanistan news. Well, very encouraging news today, because we find out through ABC News that Obama is apparently hinging his decision on whether we're going to put in more troops to Afghanistan or not so much on General McChrystal's recommendations as he is on how Hamid Karzai reacts to allegations of fraud in the Afghan elections. Because by all neutral accounts, there was tremendous fraud in the elections. Now, if Karzai says, hey, you know what, piss off. Those elections were totally fine. Yeah, sure, I got 54% of the vote. I don't even need a runoff. So we had a couple 100,000 or maybe even millions of votes more than ballots. You get that? More votes counted than there were ballots by an enormous sum. Okay, obvious fraud. If he says, no, I don't see it, there's no fraud, I'm the winner, well, I would go further than Obama. I'd say, look, if you don't recognize that there was at least some trouble in the election, and we do a real internationally monitored election in Afghanistan, we're Audi 5000. We're goners, okay? There's no sense in propping up your corrupt and fraudulent government. And I'm not going to waste any American lives doing so. And I've been in favor of, the Afghanistan war, the increased emphasis on the Afghanistan war, and even in favor of the extra troops to Afghanistan that Obama has already authorized. But the election changed everything. It was obviously fraudulent, and we don't have a real partner there, and if we don't have a real partner to work with, then we have absolutely no hope. So we can't do that. So I'm very happy to hear that Obama is saying, look, Karzai's reaction to these allegations is very important, and whether we actually have a runoff or not is very important in whether we're going to stay there and whether we're going to send in more troops. If I was him, I would tell Karzai in no uncertain terms, listen, you're going to either have a real election or there's no way we're staying. Extra troops, no. As soon as we're done with bin Laden's scalp, we're gone. And you, good luck in trying to fend off the Taliban. See you, wouldn't want to be you. And if we leave, well, you wouldn't want to be Karzai, because the Taliban is growing in strength in Afghanistan. And now even, look, conventional wisdom has swung on this, because even Tom Friedman in the New York Times saying election not good enough, and our partners in Afghanistan not good enough to keep on fighting and to increase the number of troops. Wow, Friedman's caught on. Now, one last thing on this. The guy who wrote Into the Wild and Into Thin Air, Krakauer, wrote a really good piece on the Daily Beast, because he's written a new book on the Pat Tillman controversy. And he wanted to remind everybody, hey, don't go around trusting General McChrystal. Guy's a proven liar. You know, in the case of, he was in the line of command in Afghanistan for when we tortured the hell out of people, right? So that's an enormous issue. But on the Pat Tillman issue, there's almost no question whatsoever that McChrystal signed on to a false report. It was, George Bush was up for re-election about 6 months before the election. Abu Ghraib had just broken. We had terrible news for the administration in 2 or 3 different elements of the Iraq war. And just then, Pat Tillman gets killed. It's immediately clear to the general who's writing the report, and the guy in charge of that is General McChrystal, that he was killed by friendly fire. They write a report not mentioning friendly fire at all. Meanwhile, McChrystal sends a secret email to up the line of command to General Abizaid, who's in charge over the overall theater, and he says, don't let the president say that Pat Tillman was killed by enemy fire, because he wants to cover the president's ass, make sure he doesn't say something that's not true. But at the same time, he signs a report saying, you know, he died fighting the enemy, and he should get a Silver Star, and doesn't mention friendly fire at all. A clear lie. Why? Because they got exactly the political result they wanted, which is then they came out and said, Pat Tillman's been killed, he's a hero, what a great guy, and then Krakauer traces the number of media coverage, number of stories, and the amount of media coverage that got, and it was overwhelmingly positive for the administration. And who was their guy who helped them to do that, and who falsified records to do that? General McChrystal. And then General McChrystal is instantly brought up the line of command. Dick Cheney and Don Rumsfeld loved McChrystal. So don't get a sense of, oh, McChrystal, you know, if he says we need more troops, he must be earnest about it. Maybe. I'm not saying it's that he's, you know, not being on the level at all. Maybe he really does believe that. But the fact that he leaked that report saying he better give me the troops, otherwise we're going to lose the war, goes to show you that he's definitely political, and he's definitely on the side of further surges, further escalation. And look, I don't know why I'm beating around the bush. He seems to be a clear Republican, okay? I mean, you don't get to be Cheney's and Rumsfeld's top guy, and they promote you several times, and they love the political hatchet job you did for them on Tillman, and not be a Republican. So be wary of McChrystal. And now, for now, that's good enough. You know, although funny enough, McChrystal just also came out saying, hey, you know what? We got to be wary of the Afghan government because the elections were a significant problem and we need a real partner too. And the reason why I'm not, you know, I say McChrystal's 50-50, you got to be thinking after that, what the hell's 50-50 about him? Is because I don't think his strategy overall is wrong. He wants to go away from the dumb strategy of just, bomb them, it'll, you know, make them afraid, which is so stupid, to the strategy of win hearts and minds. I think that is the right strategy, and he's right to say that the government, you know, is a significant problem for us. So he's not a dummy, and I don't think that his, you know, military strategies off. I'm just worried about his politics, that he's playing politics when he has no business in that, and he's not, you know, being helpful here and not doing the job he's supposed to do as a general. All right. Now, let's go back to politics. Speaking of politics, some people are calling out Harry Reid. In fact, a lot of people are. And Harry Reid continues to say, as we told you yesterday, that, oh, I can't, look, I got to get 60 votes. I don't have a choice. What can I do? There's no way that we can get 60 votes unless we reach out to the other side, et cetera, et cetera. You've heard all this crap before. I liked one of the critics. It was actually Marcos Melitsas, the guy who runs Daily Kos. And I liked two of his paragraphs, so I'm going to read it to you. He said, so once again, Reid is complaining that he doesn't have 60 votes, which is why they need to anoint Olympia Snowe as the de facto president of the United States. Maybe she will get us to 60. But we all know that Snowe has no intention of voting for real reform, and yet Reid, with White House backing, continue to let themselves get played. It's all a farce. And Marcos is right. He says, look, before, when we weren't at 60 votes, they said, oh, you got to get us to 60. Oh, if you get us to 60, everything's going to be okay. Well, we got you to 60. So you don't have to worry about a Republican filibuster. All you got to do is be a real leader and keep all your Democrats from joining a filibuster. Marcos goes further. Here's his final two paragraphs. Quote, Republican filibuster, Democrats have 60 votes. There is no Republican filibuster, just a Democratic one. The problem is Reid's inability to keep his caucus together. His office can't even be honest about Reid's leadership failures. Effing liars. So he's not playing, right? And then he goes on, I'll take Chuck Schumer run Senate with 57 Democrats, bye-bye Reid, Lieberman, and Lincoln, then a Harry Reid run one with 75 Democrats. Ouch. And he's right. Okay, because, and look, but put aside whether he's right, obviously I agree with him. That's why I read it. That's what I've been saying all along. He even uses the same terminology I do, corporatist Democrats, et cetera, et cetera. The reason I read you that, and the reason it's relevant is, do you see what's happening here? We have a real opponent to Harry Reid for leadership now. His name is Chuck Schumer. And that's why Schumer and Reid have been going at one another. Schumer said a statement of, hey, you know, Harry Reid, if he were to lead this caucus, we could get a strong public option here and a strong healthcare reform effort. And then Reid fired back saying, oh, Schumer, I don't think he did that, Dave. Schumer doesn't know what he's talking about, and you know, he should stick to what he's doing. You see this cat fight? That cat fight is enormously important, because if Schumer thinks he can wrestle away the majority leadership position by being more progressive, that's fantastic news. See, I knew Schumer was up to something. Haven't I been telling you that for weeks? Like, why is Schumer all of a sudden like a lion of progressivism? Well, because apparently he wants to get a more powerful position. But you know what? God bless. Bless God, bless the gays, bless Schumer, as Lady Gaga would say. Okay, so if he's going to try to get that position by out-liberaling or out-progressiving, I don't think that's a word, Harry Reid, have at it, Hoss. I'm on your side. So now Reid is scrambling, which is great, and he says, oh, you know, there have been reports out that Olympia Snowe is going to be at the negotiating table when we figure out how we're going to join the Health Committee bill and the Finance Committee bill. And he says, no, she will not be at the table. It's only going to be me and the leaders of those committees, Max Baucus and now Chris Dodd, and of course the White House. Olympia Snowe will not be at the table. Now, later we will ask her and consult with her and then do whatever she says, but technically she's not at the table. He didn't add that last part. But, no, by the way, I should be clear. He did say, we will consult with her later, and we really care about her opinion. So she's not technically at the table. Nah, don't get too excited by that. Now, what you should get excited by, which is good news, is that Pelosi has joined the attack on the insurance industry's antitrust exemption. This is very good news because, look, why do we push for the public option so much? Like I told you, I found out about the public option about a year ago. It's not like I'm like, oh my God, for decades I wanted the public option. I'm ideologically driven for the public option. No, I just want competition, right? So we can lower the prices. That's the bottom line. Well, if we're going to get competition in other ways, well, then I'm on board for that too. You know that since 1945, the healthcare insurance industry has been exempt from antitrust laws so they could have monopolies. That's insanity. It's absolutely unacceptable. And finally, the Senate and the House have woken up to it. Schumer and Reid are having a battle as to who's going to take away that exemption quicker. That's a great battle. I'm happy to have that battle. And Nancy Pelosi now on the House side saying, hell yeah, this is an accident of history. It should have never happened, and we should look immediately into taking it away so that we can get real competition in the country. To which I say, booyakasha. Let's get it on. All right, that's the good news of today. Young Turks.